Here's a cool thing to notice about the Mrs. Hawking plays. Remember Dr. Terence Enfield, the alienist who runs a sanatorium first featured in Part 5, Mrs. Frost? He plays an important role in the climax, but to set him up, he's first mentioned briefly early on in the play by Clara.
I've got a meeting with Dr. Terence Enfield of the Old Bridgewater Sanatorium. The ladies at the club are planning their charity missions for the season, and we must discuss the fundraising gala for the hospital's new wing.
When we meet him, here played by actor Phil Pierre-Louis, you might notice he's a bit on the friendly side. Where we mostly depict this culture as very physically reserved, the good doctor is unusually forward, taking Clara's hands, touching her chin, and offering his arm in comfort. He's not exactly boundary crossing, but he definitely demonstrates a blithe assurance that his own charm will make his contact welcome.
You are indeed a wonder, Mrs. Hawking.
We chose to depict him as so forward here as an indicator of his position in society. He's a powerful man who has come to believe deeply in his own rectitude, and his self-perception is backed up by the fact that he has the medical establishment behind him. Narratively, he represents the inexorable presence of the system, and his self-confidence stands for its undeniable power. You'll notice, however, in his second scene with Mrs. Frost, his bearing is noticeably different. By contrast to his scene with Clara, he not only does not try to touch Frost at all, he actively recoils when she tries to touch him. He's so disturbed by what he believes to be her madness, even his confidence is shaken. This is a huge violation to the standards of the system. But for well or for ill, even when this system is shaken, it still stands. And that is enough for our heroes to use it to bring consequences to someone trying to step outside it in the manner that Mrs. Frost is.
But I'm afraid, madam, there are some truths from which we cannot turn.
This small acting choice adds a lot of texture to the character interactions and to the world that they take place in. And you can see all of Episode 5, Mrs. Frost, here on our YouTube channel, @Mrs. Hawking.